So, Thermaltake's Core P90. This is part of their P series of open concept cases, and it's really characterized by its odd shape. The P90 gives away its 90-degree angle that it has, and this whole series kind of stands out for the large tempered glass panels. I believe they're not all tempered glass, this version is tempered glass, but they're just stuck on with these metal steel pipes that just stick out to the end of the case, and it gives it a very striking standout look. Overall, I'm pretty much a fan of it. I think the P5, the standard flat case, looks generally better. I went with this. It's funny. I didn't really intend to go with this, but I'm happy enough with it because I'm going to mount it in the corner. We're going to put this together, see what my parts look like, and then in a future video, mount it to the wall. Alright, so we've got parts ripped out of the old case. I've taken the time to dust some of it, though not completely thoroughly because I got bored. And I bothered to clean off the thermal paste to do a new application. It seemed like a good time to do that. I don't think I've done it once since I had put the CPU in. So let's start taking a look at this case and start getting parts onto it. I think that's, onto it works for this one instead of into it. I don't know. First, let's look at this box. I really just wanted to take a second just to pop this thing open because I was like taken aback the first time I opened this because it looks like a drawer you just tossed your extra parts into. And like, if it wasn't for the fact that everything is in a Ziploc bag, you would think that I just shoved it in here. But this is how it came, other than the fact that I had already popped these little legs out. But so everything in here, I'm not even sure what it is, just looking at it. This looks like a dry bay of some sort, but it could also hold a fan, but there can't be a fan because there's no ventilation to pull. I don't know. Maybe a radiator mount of some sort. Legs. Why do we have legs? I don't know why we have legs at all. This, I could take at least a good enough guess at. This is the bracket to hold the power supply onto the case. Some zip ties, always nice when they provide those, and a plethora of screws. And Mobo stands. Cool, I won't have to bust out the kit. 2.5 drive mount. That's nice. I'll be putting the SSDs in that. Looks like we get a few of those. This is the bracket for the PCI Express expansion slots. This case I know comes with the ability to mount it normally as you would with most cases, or you could mount it like this and have the outside of the graphics card kind of pointing forward, which would be great for display. The problem I see with that is they've only included a single PCI Express extension card, so that would only let me wire up the graphics card. If I wanted to mount it like that, I wouldn't be able to then put in my other two expansion cards. So I'd love to do that in the future, but I'd need two more of these, and one of these would have to be PCIe 1x. So once again, another one of these. Still don't know what it is. I'll check the manual, maybe. We'll see. Bunch of washers. Don't know why. These ones look like standoffs of some sort. Alright, probably check the manual on those. Couldn't tell you. This, I'm guessing, yeah, this has got to be the piece for rotating the PCIe cards to come off the board. So this I won't be able to use because, once again, I don't have enough of the extension cards. And again, I don't know what this is. So from there, I'll spend a little bit of time looking at the manual to figure out what I'm figure out how I'm going to put this together, and then I'll start showing the different parts of the case. Alright, manual read and ready to slap a motherboard in. The one thing I'm just staring at, expecting to be a little awkward with this case is it doesn't lay flat when you build it. So I'm going to have to hold the motherboard up while screwing into it. And, not breaking anything. So this is a very new one to me. And I'm being proper and not using a magnetic screwdriver, so I'm expecting to drop every screw. First, fast forward to this video as I get these screws in. Not much to add other than that one of the spots for my motherboard standoffs doesn't exist on this case, so whatever. You can also laugh at my inability to get this bottom screw threaded. If it wasn't for the fast forward, that might have been excruciatingly painful to sit through, but it's in. We're good. Problem solved. Alright, screws in. Motherboard's sitting pretty solid. And just getting this on, I mean, I'm kind of already liking the weird look of it. So, power supply next. So this back plate, make sure I get this lined up exactly how you're supposed to. So this goes in here. Oh, there's actually really hard to screw up. Goes in like this. This will screw in. You'll slide the power supply in, and then the bracing bracket goes on the other side. So the RM1000 power supply I have here, I've had for at least 6 years now. At some point it was powering Tri-Fire Radeon 5970s, 6970s actually. And then after that it was moved on to Crossfire Radeon R9 290s. So that's why I've got this kind of overkill power supply, just powering a single GTX 1080 right now. Let's kind of gloss over my foolishness here. But it's served me well. It runs great. It's still quiet to this day. The auto fan shut off on it works great. So I see no reason to change it out and kind of find something that fits the power profile of my PC any better. So I'm going to hold on to it. I'll probably use it for the next 2 or 3 upgrades and builds because there's no reason I see at all to change it out. Overall, for this case, the bracket mounting system I think worked great for the power supply. I know it's not the first case to use this kind of just single hook on over mounting system, but it's the first one I've ever worked with that does, and I'm pretty happy with how it works. Its installation's easy and it feels sturdy. So take a look at this. We've got the bracket on. Here's the modular ends of my power supply, and you can see there is a cable routing right here, but it's going to make, once they're plugged in, it's going to create quite a loop. And this actually supports, you can see there's another gap here for longer power supplies, or another screw hole for longer power supplies, which would go right over this slot. So I should be able to route my cables through here. It's just going to be quite the bend on them. Alright, now to get this cooler in, though. First, I'm going to get this CPU fan plugged in because it kind of gets buried underneath the cooler. Come on. And where was the other CPU fan header on this one? Or does it not have one? It just got to use a system fan. Alright, you're using system fan. So just get those in so I don't have to worry about them. And new thermal paste. Hopefully this doesn't want to slide down at all. Shouldn't. I'm using the tried and true Arctic Silver. That's a little much, but whatever. Try and line this up on this weird angle. Alright, that's looking pretty good. The screwdriver barely fits between these towers. Noctua's mounting brackets remain easily one of the best in the industries. Really simplifies things. Let's wrap all the way around. Nah. See how much of this cord I can get out of the way. So this longer than you need. This one ends up sitting a little bit high because of my RAM. Alright. PCI cards. I'm curious how sturdy this is going to feel. So as I get my PCIe expansion cards in here, there's not really much to say about the case. This back bracket, you know, it has a bit of flex to it because it's only held on by screws right at the very back, but it seems solid. The cards I'm putting in, I've got my GTX 1080. I'm really hoping to get that to a 3080 at some point this year. This is a Hyper M2 Asus PCIe expansion card for M2 SSDs. Mine doesn't support its RAID features. I just needed slots. And then finally an Elgato capture card, which is pretty self-explanatory. Well, now for my drives. I've got some choices on this one. I've got 2 SATA SSDs and 2 3.5-inch SATA HDDs. I still need all of them. And my options are I can mount the HDDs down here in the case where there's these hidden drive bays inside, or use the mounting pieces to put them here. Considering I'm not adding any fans or a radiator, I think I'm going to add them here just so this isn't a whole blank space on the front of the case. I'll probably change that up in the future. The SSDs are just going to go here and here, easy enough. I actually, now that I've got these open, I really like the way these look. They just kind of pop in, slide down a little, and then use a single thumb screw at the top to hold them in. I kind of like the design a lot. I'm really hoping that I can use that Asus M2 adapter drive to eventually replace all of these SATA drives, because I want to do a RAID array of M2 SSDs that could hopefully be at least 4 terabytes and kind of cover all of my needs and replace all of these, as I've moved a lot of my file storage to a NAS anyway. But I can't do that on this build because this doesn't support NVMe RAID, and I'm still worried about doing it on future builds because the way PCIe lanes are on consumer cards doesn't really support giving me a full 16 lanes to both the GPU and this RAID card, and I don't want to run, say, a GTX 3080 this year on only 8 lanes, and I don't want to run a RAID NVMe setup on only 8 lanes. So I'm not really sure what I'm going to do about all of that. So this case, one thing that's been happening is these screw holes have not been perfectly bored out. So I've had to use a screwdriver a couple times on what should have been a simple hand screw. So hard drives for this though are a bit different. They don't have quite as nice as a mounting system as the 2.5s. So you end up mounting them with hand screws from the back, which is a little bit harder because I'm struggling to see the holes. There we go. I'm probably going to have to tighten these in with a screwdriver. What will be interesting with this case though is if I do get the RAID set up on NVMe that I talked about in the last fast forward, is what will I do with all this space on this side of the case, because all these drives will be worthless. I really do think to take advantage of this case would be to water cool this setup, which would most likely be the best usage of the space and the best usage of time for this channel, is if I could do a water cooling video. It's not something I can really have the budget for right now, but I really would love to do it. Alright, pages are loaded up. We've got drives. I'm completely connected now. So we can take a look and just kind of see how this thing looks before I ruin it with bad cable management. So overall, I'm kind of happy with it. I thought without water cooling and everything, it was going to be a little bit goofy. But it still looks the same open case styling that I was hoping it would look. I would love to get the graphics card rotated 90 degrees, so hopefully I can get the adapters and do that one of these days. Otherwise, though, I'm going to get this thing wired up and get it ready to fire back up. Alright, so I got the cables run, and our build here is complete. Some comments on this case, then. The very first thing I want to get out of the way is just how absolutely massive this case is. This is my old case. This Raven RV03 is a full tower case. And this is taller, which isn't that surprising because this was rotated 90 degrees. This thing is deeper. But once the glass panels are on the front of this, you can see with the feet I already had to get on to keep this thing balanced, just how massive this case will end up being. And if I wasn't going to mount this to a wall, it would just take up so much room on my desk that it would be just unwieldy, and I would probably change my mind on this instantly. But since I'm mounting it to a wall, it's going to be up out of the way. It won't be a problem. What I did like about this case was I am very terrible at cable management for the most part, and other than some small things, it did pretty well without giving me many issues. The one thing that was worth noting is because of the height of this case, I struggled to get the 24-pin motherboard connector for power, main power, all the way up, and the CPU connector I actually had to run out of a different hole to get it to last a little bit of the way down. The cable management, though, otherwise, it could have used a few more hooks to just tie zip ties around in the back, but you get so much space in here to work that it wasn't hard to just pull all the cables in and get them zip tied up and out of the way. Everything else, it went together very well. It went together easily. So I'm going to slap the glass panels on here and take some photos to post up with it and call it a build. Alright, so the glass is on and this thing is complete. I'm definitely happy with how it looks. I wish it was easier to see. I've tried moving the lighting around a bit. The tinting on the glass makes it really hard to see inside now, but luckily I've had it kind of open and available for the last few shots. But I'm done. The next video for this will be when I mount it to the wall, which should already be done filming by the time this one goes up, because I've already got the part coming in for delivery today. So I might be even filming that soon, if not tonight, tomorrow. So if you have any interest in seeing this thing get mounted to the wall, then please give me a subscribe. I have at least 8 videos already planned out. I would love to continue making content for the foreseeable future, but to justify that, I need an audience. So if you enjoyed this and you want to see more, please give me a subscribe, and I hope you will join me for future videos. Thanks.